Hi, boys and girls. Now, today I'm going to continue to read in the New Testament so that we can continue our journey with Jesus Christ as he is embarking on the day of his crucifixion. So, the stories today are called Jesus' Enemies Grow Stronger. So, sit back, relax, and let's enjoy our stories from the New Testament. Jesus arrived in triumph at the very walls of the huge temple area. He had a good look around, but as it was evening and Jerusalem was packed to overflowing, they all went back to their Bethany friends for the night. Next morning, Jesus returned to the temple. The first big area, or court, was open to all. But this was the only part where non-Jews called Gentiles were allowed to go. A big notice warned them to go no further on pain of death. This court should have been a quiet place where people could come to pray and learn about the true God. Jesus was horrified at the scene that met his eyes and ears. There was a deafening hubbub of noise. Sheep bleated, cows lowed, and birds twittered, while traders shouted hoarsely. People with big packs threaded their way through the stalls, using the temple as a shortcut. Jesus knew that the traders selling the animals as offerings for the pilgrims to give to God were charging more than 20 times too much for them. The money changers were cheating too. Every Jew had to pay a temple tax at Passover time, but those who changed the pilgrims' coins into the temple shekel used for payment were making a fat profit. The priests themselves were behind much of the trading. Jesus was very angry that the poor should be cheated and that God's house should be turned into a dishonest market. He strode forward, unafraid of his enemies, the priests, and with a strong arm overturned the stalls. Tables and stools were soon upside down, and coins rolled everywhere. Then Jesus shooed out the animals and turned away the people with their baggage. The pilgrims looked on in amazement. How brave Jesus was to defy the most powerful people in the land. Jesus explained to them, God said that his temple should be a place where everyone from every nation could come to pray and worship him. It shall not be turned into a thieves' den. The people understood and were glad. Enemies outside. Passover celebrations lasted a full week. Every night Jesus went back to Bethany, but by day he taught in the temple courts. The religious leaders were growing more and more determined to silence Jesus once and for all. 2 days before Passover supper, they called a meeting of their 70-strong council. The chairman was the high priest, Caiaphas, and the meeting was held in his house. We must arrest Jesus, he told them, but he is so popular that we shall have to do it secretly or risk a riot. That means waiting until after Passover, when the crowds have gone, another said. But Jesus knew more than his enemies about what was going to happen. This Passover, I am going to be handed over to the Romans to be crucified, he told his disciples. As Jesus was teaching the religious leaders joined the crowd and began to ask questions. They hoped to trap Jesus into saying something that would get him into trouble. Do you think we should pay taxes to the Romans or not? They asked him one day. They knew that if Jesus said yes, he would not be popular with the people. But if he said no, they could report him to the Roman rulers. They were sure they had caught him out this time. Hand me a coin, Jesus said. When someone passed a coin to him, Jesus held it up. Whose head is on that coin, he asked. Caesar's, they replied. Then give Caesar what you owe to him and give God what you owe to him. Jesus had escaped their trap, but he had not given a trick answer. He had told them what was right and true. The Jews owed much to their Roman rulers. They provided them with roads and water and kept peace between nations, but they owed far more to God. And your last story for this section, called Jesus' Enemies Grow Stronger, the enemy inside. When Jesus rode into Jerusalem at the beginning of the Passover celebrations, his disciples were even more excited than the crowds. They had longed for the day when Jesus would be openly owned as king. Perhaps at last that day was near. But Jesus kept patiently warning them that he was not going to be that kind of earthly king. At first, he would rule only in the hearts of his followers. Soon he would be arrested and killed. After that, he would come alive again forever, and his kingdom would spread through the whole world. Most of the disciples still did not grasp what Jesus meant, but Judas Iscariot began to understand only too well. He was an ambitious man, and he loved money. He, more than any of them, had looked forward to the day when, as one of King Jesus's chief advisors, he would have power and wealth. But Jesus's words at the Bethany dinner party, when Mary poured out her precious perfume, made Judas realize that Jesus was preparing for a very different future. He did not intend to become an earthly king and throw off Roman rule. Now Judas's dreams of wealth and power would never come true. He had been wasting the best years of his life. He was bitterly disappointed and sick at heart. He knew that the priests and leaders of the nation needed someone on the inside to help them if they were to succeed in arresting Jesus. Someone who could tell them where to find Jesus when no crowds were present. Judas made his way to the temple, where he knew he would find the council members and priests. "How much money will you give me if I tell you where and when you can catch the man you want?" he asked. The conspirators' faces brightened. This was too good to be true. They had scarcely expected help from one of the man's own followers. Someone pulled out a bag of money and carefully counted out the silver coins. "There you are, Judas," he said, 30 of them, and you can have them now. Let us know as soon as possible where to find your master." Judas walked off, his thoughts in a whirl. From now on, he must watch carefully for the best way to keep his side of the bargain with his new masters. Okay, boys and girls, I'm going to stop there. I will start another New Testament story in a different YouTube video. That way it's not so long, and it'll be called The Last Supper, which begins Holy Thursday. Okay, boys and girls, enjoy these readings. Bye.